during a week. At the end, another monk will begin at the place where he stopped. This is called a lectio continua, continuous reading. What happens in the church? And the rules say how it must be read, etc., etc. But now, imagine a fact. While the monk had to read the whole of the rule, so at a certain moment, he will arrive at chapter 24, where the rule will say that the lector, the monk, must read the rule. It's an interesting situation, because why in the other passage of the rule, reading the rule is following the prescription of reading, but was not realizing the very fact of what was said in the rule. Here, the reading and the execution of the rule coincide, because the monk will read, the monk must read the rule. So it's a very interesting concept. This means that the lectio, the reading, enacts what the rule says.
It's interesting to compare it then to a speech act, which it is of course a speech act, but in the same way that a vow, Austin in his philosophical papers makes a point about an infelicitous speech act, a speech act that is illegitimate or it fails. It fails because it requires a context which is outside of the act to make it authoritative and legitimate. But in the case of the vow itself becomes the context. So the coincidence is of the speech act with what had formerly been external to it as a context, which is now internal. And in the same way here, you have the mise en abîme of reading what is read at the moment of reading what is read. And so the incident regress of that is the same kind of collapse. And so it becomes a speech act which authorizes itself. Is it fair to say that?
Absolutely. What we will see is that the very core of liturgy, which is the sacramental liturgy, has the form of a speech act, of a performative. But this theorized, this is said, we'll see. And this is one of the most important facts to understand what a liturgical act is. It is a performative.
This may be going too far, but the way that you describe this development from the rule of the forefathers to the rule of the master almost reminds me of the beginning of the Gospel of John, where in the beginning was the Word, and then eventually by the end of the prologue, the Word has become flesh and has dwelt among us. And I just thought that was an interesting development, because there's a real kind of creative, spiritual creativity thing going on.
Yeah, it's a word which enacts itself. Can you see, realize it itself? Realizes itself.
Genesis starts the same way.
Yeah.
Genesis starts the same way.
Who?
Genesis. And God said, "Let there be light." So the whole start.
But it's not only like in the Genesis that the divine word has the power to create, but here we will see in the sacramental liturgy, it's really a speech act, because what is enacted is what is meant. So it's not a creation. It is that the meaning of what I say will be realized. And this is also very important to understand the importance of the lectio, of the reading in the both Jewish and Christian liturgy. Because what we see in the text, in the liturgical text, is that they will say that when we read the Holy Scripture, for instance, the Gospel, we are not. It's not a narration. We are not remembering or evoking. No, through the reading, the Christ will be present. So the idea is that the lectio, the reading, has a kind of performative power. So, for instance, there is one of the most interesting treaty on Christian liturgy is written in Greek by a theologian called Greek theologian called Nicholas Kabasilas. And here he will say, in the word that we read or we sing, we see the Christ and the works of the Passion. Also the singing. Singing and reading have this power. We see.
Excuse me. Is that Nicholas Pasanas?
No, Nicholas Kabasilas. Something 14th century, I believe. The book is called Interpretation of the Divine Liturgy. So it's really one of the most important treaties on liturgy. So what I wanted to tell you through this analysis of these four texts and rules is that I think that here we see clearly that the rule is conceived as a liturgical text because it is read exactly like the Holy Writing. One of the main points of the liturgy is the reading of the Holy Writing. Here we see that the text of the rule is treated as a Holy Writing, as the Holy Writing, Holy Scripture, so Holy Scripture writings.
Yeah.
So this means, in my opinion, clearly that the text is conceived, the text of the rule here is conceived as a liturgical text. It's the object of a lectio, of a reading. Otherwise, how a text could be read in this way, and perhaps also display we saw between orality and writing was meant to give to the text a peculiar status, a peculiar authority. But we see clearly that the process that starts from a rule conceived as in its own indifference with life, and the rule as a text is achieved. Here we see here the rule is a text, and it is even a liturgical text. So there is no more kind of indetermination between rule and life. Here the text ends in a liturgy. And for that reason, after his investigation in monastic rules, I felt that I had to pose the question to go on with the problem of liturgy. So only if we understand what a liturgical act is, then perhaps we understand all the problem that we saw. So this is why the second part of my investigation took the form of an